Denmark is the most underestimated country in Scandinavia. People fly to Copenhagen, do Nyhavn and the food scene, and head home assuming they've done it. But the country stretches in directions that are completely different from the capital, a Baltic island that's unlike anything else in Denmark, a chalk cliff coast on a misty island, a medieval market town where white storks still nest on the rooftops, and two seas meeting visibly at the tip of a sand spit. Welcome to Optimized Travel Destinations. My name is Brandon, and I'm part of the OptimizedTravel.com team. We help travelers plan amazing trips through our concierge service, and our team has put together the absolute best places Denmark has to offer. These are definitely the 10 best places to visit in Denmark. All right, let's start the countdown. Number 10, Ribe. Ribe is the oldest town in Denmark, and it has this very specific medieval atmosphere that feels completely unforced. Every evening from May to mid-September, a night watchman makes his rounds through the old town with a lantern, singing the traditional songs they've been singing for centuries. I joined the walk on a weekday evening almost by accident, and I came back the following night because it was honestly one of the loveliest things I'd experienced in Denmark. Ribe sits in southern Jutland on the Ribe River near the Wadden Sea. About 2 hours from Copenhagen by train to Bramming, then bus, and an overnight is definitely worthwhile. White storks nest on the chimneys of the old town houses, creating a slightly surreal skyline of medieval rooftops and stork nests. There's a pair on a chimney visible from the main square, and the whole town treats them with the affection of actual residents. The Viking Center, a few kilometers outside of town, is one of the better living history sites in Scandinavia. Practical demonstrations of Viking-age crafts and daily life, without the theme park quality some of them have. Ribe is genuinely lovely and remarkably quiet. Come for a night and you'll be glad you stayed over. Number 9, Skagen. At the very tip of Denmark, there's a sand spit called Grenen, where the Skagerrak and the Kattegat meet. You can stand with 1 foot in each sea. The water runs in from opposite directions and collides in front of you in small choppy waves. It sounds like a minor novelty, and then you get there and find yourself standing there for far longer than you planned. Skagen sits at the northernmost part of Denmark in North Jutland. It's about 3 hours north of Aarhus by train. I recommend spending 2 nights. Head out to the tip and visit the Skagen Museum on day 1, then explore the dunes and the harbor on day 2. The light here is what brought the Skagen painters in the 1870s and 1880s. A particular quality of northern coastal light bounced between 2 bodies of water that makes everything luminous in a way that's kinda hard to describe unless you've actually seen it. The Skagen Museum has the paintings, and seeing them here surrounded by the landscapes that inspire them changes how you look at them. The Rabier Mila is a migrating dune, a massive hill of sand that moves about 15 meters eastward every year, covering everything in its path. Walking to the top and looking across the dune landscape is one of the stranger natural experiences in Denmark. Skagen has a summer season energy that's been lively for 150 years. Come in June before the peak crowds or in September when the light is most extraordinary and the town is calm. Number 8, Møns Klint. Møns Klint is a 128-meter chalk cliff face on the Baltic coast of Møn Island. And from the water, it looks completely wrong for Denmark, like it belongs in a more dramatic country. The chalk is brilliant white, stratified with fossils embedded in the surface that you can pull directly out of the cliff base on the beach. I spent about an hour crouched in the shingle looking for crinoids and shark teeth, which is not something I expected to be doing in Denmark. Møns Klint sits on the southern coast of Møn Island in southeastern Denmark. It's about 2 hours from Copenhagen by car or bus. I definitely recommend a full day for the cliffs and staying overnight to catch that beautiful dark sky. The cliffs are best from the water. A kayak or the boat tour gives you the full scale in a way you can't get from the top. There are steep staircases down to the beach if you want to reach the fossil beds at the base, and the walk along the beach below the cliffs is one of the most memorable in all of Scandinavia. Møn is also one of the best dark sky areas in Europe. Flat, agricultural, very little light pollution. On a clear night, the Milky Way is visible overhead with a clarity that is genuinely shocking if you live in a city. Come for the cliffs and stay for the night sky. Both are definitely worth the trip. Number 7, Bornholm. Bornholm is a Danish island in the middle of the Baltic, closer to Sweden and Germany than to Copenhagen, and it has its own character that's noticeably different from the mainland. Rocky coastlines, proper forests, four-ram medieval churches that look like nothing else in Denmark, and a smoked herring tradition that's been going for centuries. It's where Danes go when they want to feel like they've left Denmark without, actually leaving it. Bornholm lies in the Baltic Sea, about 160 kilometers east of Copenhagen, accessible by overnight ferry or a 25-minute flight. Spend about 3 nights here, start at the fortress and the round churches, spend day 2 cycling the coastline, and then close out with the smokehouses and a day on the beach. Hammerhus is the largest medieval fortress ruin in northern Europe, sitting on a coastal cliff top at the northwestern tip of the island. From the sea below, the walls seem to grow directly out of the rock. From inside, the layout of the old fortress is still readable. Towers, gates, granaries. Give it a full morning to explore completely. The round churches are genuinely mysterious. Circular, whitewashed with conical roofs, built in the 12th century for reasons that aren't entirely agreed upon. Østerlars is the largest and the best preserved church. Walking into one is unlike any other architectural experience in Denmark. The smoked herring at the small Royer Rear smokeries along the harbor. At the Guyem is the thing to eat there. There's an art form to the smoking that's been passed down for generations. I like to eat it outside with some rye bread and butter while facing the sea. Number 6. Odense. Odense is where Hans Christian Andersen was born, and the city has found an interesting way to honor that. Rather than a traditional museum full of glass cases, they built a world-class experience by Japanese architect Kengo Kuma. It takes the fairy tale landscape as its architectural concept. Let's just say that I went with fairly modest expectations and came away completely won over. The building is extraordinary, and the exhibition inside it actually helps you understand Andersen as a person, rather than simply a collection of famous stories. Odense sits on the island of Feunen in central Denmark. It's about 1.5 hours from Copenhagen by direct train. The half-timbered streets around the old town center are some of the most complete in Denmark. Not a heritage area set aside for tourists, but streets that are still used and lived in. Walk towards the cathedral through them and you get a proper sense of what a Danish market town looked like before the 20th century. Den Fynske Landsby is an open-air museum a short cycle from the center. Old Funen farm buildings reassembled into a working village with craft demonstrations and livestock. It sounds like every open-air museum you've ever been to, but it's executed exceptionally well. The setting by the river is beautiful. Odense is very easy to combine with Copenhagen as a day trip, but it deserves an overnight to actually settle into the city. Number 5. Silkeborg and the Lake District. The Tallend Man is in a museum in Silkeborg, and I was completely unprepared for the experience of seeing him. He's a bog body, a man preserved in a peat bog for 2,400 years, and his face is intact. A calm expression, stubble, the texture of skin. You stand in front of a glass case and look at the face of someone who died in the Iron Age, and it's one of those museum moments where the word ancient stops being abstract. Silkeborg sits in the Lake District of central Jutland. It's about 1 hour west of Aarhus by train. 2 nights is nice here. Give a morning to the Tallend Man and then go out on the river for the rest of your time. The Gudenha River system runs through the whole Lake District, and canoeing is one of the best things you can do in Denmark that isn't in a city. Multi-day routes with camping on the riverbed, stopping at villages for supplies. The lakes, the forest, the wildlife, it's completely different from any other experience in Denmark. Himmelbjerget, the Sky Mountain, all 147 meters of it, is one of the most popular high points in the country, and Danes tell you about it with a kind of good-humored self-awareness that makes them such good company. The view from the top is genuinely amazing, even if the altitude doesn't quite match the name. Silkeborg combines 2 things Denmark does exceptionally well: fascinating history and time spent outdoors. Give it a couple of days and you'll understand why people keep coming back. Number 4. Roskilde. Roskilde Cathedral is where 40 Danish royals are buried across 1,000 years of history. That fact alone makes it worth the visit. The accumulated weight of that many monarchs in one building, the chapels built by different centuries, the tombs and sarcophagi that range from medieval stone to 19th century marble. But the Viking ship museum down by the harbor is what I find myself talking about afterward. Roskilde sits at the southern end of Roskilde Fjord in Zealand. It's about 25 minutes west of Copenhagen by direct train. A full day is a good amount of time. Open with the cathedral in the morning, then spend the afternoon at the Viking ships. And if the timing works, get out on the fjord for a sailing session. The Vikingeskibsmuseet holds 5 original Viking ships, raised from the fjord where they were deliberately sunk about 1,000 years ago to block the harbor. They're displayed in a building designed specifically for them, and the scale of the longship is something you can't quite prepare for. It's one thing to read about Viking voyages, it's quite another to stand beside the ship that made them possible. The museum also holds and sails replica longships on the fjord, and in summer you can join the crew for a sailing session. How cool is that? This is the activity I'd plan a trip to Roskilde around. Rowing a Viking longship on a Danish fjord is exactly as good as it sounds. Number 3. Aarhus. Aarhus has a rainbow panorama on top of its art museum, a circular walkway of colored glass at rooftop level that you can walk through while the city appears below you. Tinted red, then yellow, then green, then blue. It's one of those public art experiences that sounds gimmicky and turns out to be genuinely moving, because the city below is beautiful and the changing light through the glass makes you notice things you'd otherwise miss. Aarhus sits in the eastern Jutland coast facing the Kattegat. That's Denmark's second city, about 3 hours from Copenhagen by direct train. 2 full days is what I'd recommend here. Den Gamle By is one of the best open-air museums in Europe. Entire streets of Danish buildings from different centuries, reassembled into a working town. The section recreating a 1970s street complete with period details and a working supermarket is the most disorienting and charming part. The Latin Quarter is the neighborhood to wander for dinner, cobblestone streets, independent restaurants, the kind of neighborhood energy that makes you want to come back. Book ahead at the good places or go early. I think Aarhus is the most livable city in Denmark after Copenhagen, and a lot of Danes would agree. It has everything you want from a city, but at a scale that never feels overwhelming. Number 2. Helsingør Kronborg. Shakespeare set Hamlet at Elsinore without having ever visited Denmark. The castle he imagined became Kronborg. And when you stand on the ramparts looking across the Öresund to Sweden, only 4 kilometers away, you understand exactly why this location lodged in the imagination. The narrow strait, the fortress controlling passage between the North Sea and the Baltic, the sense that what happened here mattered. It all makes sense here. Helsingør and Kronborg sit on the northeastern tip of Zealand, directly across from the Helsingborg in Sweden. It's about 45 minutes north of Copenhagen by direct train. Combine the castle with a walk through Helsingør's old streets, and if the timing works, jump on the 20-minute ferry to Sweden for the afternoon. The castle casemates are where Holger Danske sleeps, a legendary Danish hero, who, according to tradition, will wake when Denmark needs him. There's a large statue in the underground passages, and sitting in those dark vaulted rooms with just the statue and the torchlight, it's a genuinely atmospheric place, mostly because it isn't trying to be. The Öresund Strait here is one of the most historically significant waterways in Europe. Every ship between the North Sea and the Baltic passed through it and paid toll at Kronborg for centuries. Standing on the ramparts watching the modern cargo ships pass between Denmark and Sweden is a direct line to all of that. Now, before we get to number 1, a quick word about optimized travel. Denmark is small but surprisingly diverse in what it offers, and working out the right combination of islands, Jutland, and Copenhagen is not always obvious. Our concierge team puts these trips together regularly and knows what actually works. Head to optimizedtravel.com or click the link in the description below. And now, number 1, Copenhagen. Copenhagen is one of those cities that makes you feel like you're doing life correctly while you're in it. The cycling infrastructure is so good that you naturally get a bike the first morning and move through the city at the right speed. Not too fast, not too slow. The food is extraordinary. The harbor is swimmable in summer. And there's this quality of light in June and July with the sun barely setting, where the whole city seems lit from within. Copenhagen sits on the eastern coast of Zealand and the island of Amager, facing Sweden across the Öresund, the capital of Denmark. One of the most livable cities in the world, extremely well connected by air and rail. 3 nights minimum, Open with Nyhavn and Tivoli. Spend day 2 in the meatpacking district and the harbor. Then make the trip to Louisiana on day 3. Nyhavn is in every photograph, and it deserves to be. The colored 17th century merchant buildings along the canal, the boats tied up, the cafe tables. Yes, it's touristy, but it's beautiful. Go in the evening, find a table at the end where it opens onto the harbor, and it's still one of the most beautiful urban settings in Northern Europe. Tivoli is the world's second oldest amusement park, and it operates on a completely different register from what the word amusement park suggests. The gardens, the architecture, the restaurants, the classical music program, especially in the evening when it's lit up. It's more like a very elegant public park that happens to also have rides. The Louisiana Museum of Modern Art is 35 kilometers north of the city and worth the train journey. The building extends along a cliff top above the Oresund, with sea views from almost every gallery room. The collection is superb, but it's the combination of art and landscape that makes Louisiana unforgettable. My favorite Copenhagen day would be to cycle to the fish market at Torvehalleren in the morning, ride out to Louisiana in the afternoon, and come back for dinner in the meatpacking district. That's an excellent day. These are the 10 best places to visit in Denmark, from the oldest town at Ribe and the Iron Age face in the Silkeborg Museum all the way to Shakespeare's castle at Helsingør and the canals of Copenhagen. Denmark rewards anyone willing to look beyond the obvious. If you're ready to start planning, head to optimizetravel.com. Our team is ready to help you build the perfect Danish itinerary. And let us know in the comments, would you start with Copenhagen or go straight for Bornholm? Drop it below, we read every single one. If you found this useful, don't forget to subscribe. We cover the world's best destinations every week, and we'd love to have you along for the ride.